Hey there, good evening. Dr. Andrew Merrill here at Nightlight Chiropractic in downtown Orlando, and this is Wednesday Night Wellness Live, and we do this video every week for our patients, our friends, our viewers, to give you some great information, really. And this week I've got a fantastic topic for you, and I've got no housekeeping items to go over. I hope that you're weathering this storm nicely and getting through this coronavirus quarantine, which here in Florida, I think we're coming out of soon, so there's some hope for the future. But tonight's topic is related to our quarantining a little bit, and the topic of this week's video is dreams, safety, and schedules. And those three topics are actually really connected, and if you haven't really figured out or ever thought about how those three things might be connected, this video is for you. So we've been hearing from a lot of our patients that they're having some crazy dreams right now, right? I myself have been having some crazy dreams. My wife has been having some crazy dreams. We actually polled a bunch of our patients over the past week or so and found that about 80% of them are having different dreams, crazy dreams, dreams that they say are not normal for themselves. So we're gonna classify that into the crazy dreams section. And as I go over tonight's video just a little bit, I need you to understand that I'm going from a couple different books that I'm gonna introduce you here this evening. This is not just me talking or my interpretation of what's going on. Also, this is all very science driven. So this is not going to be about trying to interpret your dreams or how your dreams might affect your future or anything related to the zodiac. I don't do any of that stuff. I don't know any of that stuff. So it's going to be strictly by the research, talking about why we're dreaming and what that might portend for the science, right? So again, we're talking about sleep, we're talking about safety, and we're talking about schedules. So we're going to jump right into it here. So dreams, we first have to talk about dreams a little bit. And I've introduced this book to you before, and I know that this comes up backward when I show it, but it's called Why We Sleep, and it's by Matthew Walker, PhD. It's a fantastic resource. I highly recommend that you get this book and read this book, but I'm going to use some excerpts from it here this evening and some of the topics in here because he talks about dreaming a lot, you know? So we've talked about the sleep side of things and how important sleep is and why it's so important to get sleep, how important it is for your health kind of across the board, but we didn't talk about the dreams segment of it. So tonight we're going to talk about that dream segment just a little bit. And basically, here's what happens. When you're dreaming, your brain moves from this NREM sleep, this non-REM sleep, that is where your brain was going about cataloging all the information and learning that you got done during that day, right? So it starts off the night with you processing all the information that you've got, and then as your brain moves into that REM sleep, what you get is your brain actually making new connections. So it's taking the old information that it had, taking the new information that it got, and then kind of running it through all these weird scenarios where logic does not need to take place. Now, the other thing that's happening when we're dreaming is that your brain is not making logical steps, right? So in Dr. Walker's research and in some of the research that he quotes, if I taught you that A was better than B and B was better than C, then in your wakefulness, you could understand that A is better than C, right? A is better than B, B is better than C, thus A is better than C. But in your REM sleep and directly afterwards, your brain is making leaps that doesn't require any middle step, right? So your brain is putting together things faster than you can consciously put things together. And so dreaming is really important. It's your brain's way of coming up with this new idea. And this is highlighted in a couple different ways in this book. So Mendeleev, the guy who invented the periodic table, if you've ever seen that periodic table of elements in chemistry, swears that that came to him in a dream, right? He'd been stewing on it. He'd been trying to figure it out for months and months. He had little index cards, and then in his sleep, what happened was they all just kind of organized themselves, and then all of a sudden we had the periodic table kind of as it is. And he swears that it came to him in a dream. And then also, too, Thomas Edison, right? Famous inventor. You'll find him in all the science textbooks for your kids at home when you're schooling them now. He was so enamored by the idea of learning from your sleep. What he would do is he would fall asleep with some ball bearings, some metal balls in his hand at his desk. So with a piece of paper and pen, he'd have metal in his hand, and then he'd hold his hand over a metal frying pan, so that as he fell asleep and he went in, he lost muscle control, because that's what happens when you go into REM sleep, you lose muscle control. His hand would open, the ball bearings would fall in the pan, it would wake him, and he would call these genius naps, whereby he got some of his best ideas, according to him. So dreaming can be a very powerful tool for learning, but what we're hearing from patients is that they're not learning much from this, right? Their brain is coming up with some crazy ideas, and they're not enjoying the process, right? They don't feel like they're gaining anything from it or coming up with anything new from it. All they're doing is getting crazy dreams. So if you're having different dreams right now, I'm going to argue that it has a lot to do with all of this new information that your brain maybe has never had to process before. And one of those things is safety. Right? Now, before you go guns a-blazing, or before you turn this off thinking that you understand what I'm going to say, I need to start with some caveats here. So I don't care how cavalier you are towards this idea of coronavirus, how safe you feel around it, how unsafe you feel around it. What's going on right now is that your brain is asking new questions and getting new scenarios, and a lot of them have to dwell on safety. Right? Is it safe to go out? I see masks. My brain has never had to process masks before. Is it safe for me to be out and about? I'm told I'm not supposed to leave my house. Is that safe or is that not safe? Now, consciously, you get to make those decisions. I feel like I'm safe. I can do whatever I want, or whatever you're telling yourself. But the reality is that subconsciously, your brain is making new choices and makes choices without you. And so this is a good time, it's an ideal time to talk about this other book that maybe is not the best read for the general public. It's called The Pocket Guide to the Polyvagal Theory, The Transformative Power of Feeling Safe by Stephen Porges. It's a fantastic read as long as you understand all of the words that are used. And for a pocket guide, it's actually really, really difficult. So when a book starts with a glossary of terms, you know that you're kind of going to get over your head, but it's fantastic because he applies the vagus nerve to safety. So let's go back here, because I don't want to lose anybody. This is important to understand. Subconsciously, safety is different than conscious safety, right? So you've got this vagus nerve. You've got all of your nerves come out of your brain. They go into your spinal cord. They go into your brainstem and then into your spinal cord and then exit out to the different parts of your body, except for a handful, right? So you've got your cranial nerves that are separate from your spinal cord and your brainstem, and they come out of your brain exclusively, separate from the rest of those nerves. They go down to different parts of your body and they do different things, right? So you've got cranial nerves that innervate your face, or they'll innervate your eyes, or smell, or hearing. And this vagus nerve, this 10th cranial nerve, comes out of your brain and it goes down. So it's got some endings that go to your ears, some endings that go to your face, some endings that go to your heart, and some endings that go to your lungs. And what that's basically doing is this is your measure of safety. This vagus nerve is like your handbrake for your parasympathetic tone. It's telling your body, don't freak out, don't freak out, don't freak out, separate from the rest of your nerves. And when it's getting stimuli to go ahead and let it rip roar, basically you're turning down your vagus nerve and your body is getting agitated. You're getting anxious. You are dealing with anxiety. Your heart rate goes up. Your respirations go up. Your eardrums are actually super tightened so that they're on high alert. And so basically what's happening is your body can subconsciously figure out when there's danger, and it doesn't even have to make you aware of it. Your body just naturally tunes to it. And that's what's happening right now, is we're dealing with some of this anxiety that is subconscious, and it's now sending different signals to your brain, which then in turn is allowing your dreams to be different. And different's not bad, right? So like I said, tonight's topic is about dreams, safety, and schedules. I don't want you to think that, because you're having dreams that there's something medically wrong, that you need to rush out to your doctor. Absolutely not, quite the contrary. Some of these dreams are your brain trying to take the information that it has and apply it to old situations. So it can be a great thing. In fact, some of it can be your brain working through some of these new challenges and situations. So don't think of it necessarily as a bad thing, but understand that some of these are coming from subconsciously you feel unsafe, as in the book here, and you need to make sure that you are applying the best techniques for your body to overcome that, because that can also be a bad thing, right? So if your heart rate and your respirations are constantly up because your body is always subconsciously ready to explode or to push you into this fight or flight mode, that's not a good thing, right? Now, sympathetic tone is not a bad thing, but it's not a good thing when it's done kind of en masse. So we've talked about this a little bit before. I'm going to really quickly race through it. Your brain has 3 different layers. You've got this reptilian layer, which is, think like breathing and breakfast and breathing. It's really just the super basic stuff. And then above that, you have this mammalian layer that is like emotion, it's pain, it's pleasure, a little bit of learning. And then there's the human brain, which is the very top layer, that cortex. And basically, it's just very primate and human thinking, right? It's a higher thinking. And that deepest layer, that reptilian one, is the one where your vagus nerve is going into. And so it's hard to kind of hijack that, right? You'd have to use other things in that deep reptilian brain to hijack back how we're going to feel more safe. And this is where that schedule comes in, right? So to be safe, to be subconsciously safe, there's what we know is dangerous, what we don't know is dangerous, and what we have never even conceived of as dangerous. And so in the context of tonight's conversation, we have to just focus on the things that we know are dangerous, and maybe the things that we don't quite know are dangerous. The stuff that we don't know that we don't know kind of has to go by the wayside. But one of the things that is affecting us all right now is the uncertainty of our schedule. And so that's how that third layer comes in. So dreams are affected by safety, and safety subconsciously is affected by schedule, right? And this is an amazing concept if you think about it. So if your routine, right, you wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning, then you take a shower, you eat breakfast, you go to work, you wait in your traffic, you go to work, you eat lunch, you finish work, you go home, you eat dinner, watch TV, start over the next day. There's a routine to that is incredibly safe to your brain. Right? Your brain starts to say everything is as it was. There's no reason to be upset or afraid because my routine tells me that nothing is outside of my routine and it's safe. And I think that's really important because we're all out of our schedule, right? Even if you are still working and still going through most of your grind, your weekends are not like they were, right? Your evenings are not like they were. Your social interaction, and we all have it, is not like it was. So what we need right now is a little bit of hearkening back to get a schedule, make a schedule, right? I mean, we're going to talk about it here in just a second, but it doesn't have to be this rigid structure like you had before. You need a schedule that is a little bit rigid, meaning that because nobody else is going to hold your feet to the fire here and make you do this, it has to be rigid enough that you are going to follow through on it, right? You have to give yourself some kind of ammunition or some kind of way that you're going to hold yourself to this because literally you're probably the only one who's going to care once this is done. It needs to be flexible enough, though, that as things start to change a little bit, it's not just going to be snap gone. There's no more schedule because I'm going back to my old schedule, because there's still going to be a lot of uncertainty as the world is rolled back out to the general public. So understand it has to have some rigidity, it has to have some flexibility. And then the third thing, only because I'm a doctor here talking to you, is it should have some healthy things in there, right? If your schedule is just like raid the pantry and watch Netflix and then raid the pantry again, and it just bounces back and forth between those two, that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for some time that is specifically carved out that creates a routine for you that then your brain adapts as normal, and then it will set that vagal tone to allow you to feel safe again. So that you have better dreams. Great, that's all well and good, except that it affects your health in 100 other ways, which is why I'm talking to you about it, because you're all telling me that you're having this symptom of this no safety or things are different, my brain is working differently. But if you also don't have a schedule, then you have no way to combat that. So if you look back at some of our old videos, we definitely talk about lots of tips and tricks to get better sleep. Some of those same tips and tricks can actually help you to get into lucid dreaming. I don't want to talk about that here. That's a whole different conversation for a different time. But lucid dreaming is when you actually have control of your dreams, and it can be a fascinating thing, at least in the research. But anyways, for this evening, that is it. I hope that I kind of convinced you that your dreams, your safety, and creating a schedule for yourself can be a good thing. And then, lastly, I wanted to talk about this because this is important. And I hear this a lot. People are always, when I ask them, how are you doing? What are you doing during your quarantine? They're always disappointed or sheepish to tell me that they haven't been doing much, right? Oh, I haven't been doing much. I binge watch a couple shows, or I go on walks in the evening with my dog. I know it's not much, but it's good. And I need you to understand that this is a quarantine, not a sabbatical. You're not supposed to be in the best shape of your life, learning the most. You're not supposed to figure out how to play a new instrument or write the great American novel. You're in a quarantine. The earth is closed. You're not supposed to be the best you. What you're supposed to be is staying at home. And so if you're doing that, you're figuring it out, and good job. But don't be sheepish. No one's grading you on how you spent your time during this quarantine, right? Except maybe yourself. You could say, oh, I don't feel good about what I did yesterday. I need to change that. And you can change that right now by creating a schedule for yourself. So here's an important part. It has to be on paper. So get yourself a piece of paper and a pencil. It has to be on paper. It cannot be in your phone. It can't be in your head. It can't be that loose. Piece of paper, pencil, here's my schedule, here's how it's going to fit. I left some gaps in there because I know that there's things that are going to come up that I have to do, but here's the basic outline of it all written down. It's going to save you, it's going to make you feel safe, it's going to help to change your dreams, it's going to help you to be healthier during this quarantine. Anyways, I hope that you're weathering the storm okay. If you ever need me, I'm in the comments here. You can find me at www.nightlightchiropractic.com. Go to contact us, and that email comes directly to my phone. Otherwise, you can follow all of these old videos on our Facebook channel, on our YouTube channel, or the blog on our website. Thank you for watching. Have a great night. I'll see you next Wednesday for another Wednesday Night Wellness Live. Good night.